Time now to talk to two gentlemen who basically, in not a small way, changed the face of modern Britcom. Yes, I called it Britcom in the late 90s with the groundbreaking radio show that became a TV mega hit, The League of Gentlemen. God rest ye, merry League of Gentlemen. They retired it for a while, but like Jesus, they were resurrected, and now they tour the enormodomes of the United Kingdom and beyond with their live show, hugely applauded, which is now available for all to see on DVD and in a very sumptuous box set, which includes vinyl. We have 2/4 of the group here now, not half. It's Jeremy Dyson and Mark Gatiss.
Hello.
Hello.
This is also the end of time. This is literally the end of time for my 11-year, 8-month tenure on a Six Music Breakfast show, which in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that's going to make it into the next Bayeux Tapestry. But it is still the end of something. So, just to make that, just to really underline that.
But a new beginning as well.
And a new beginning as well. Thank you, Jeremy, for pointing that out.
Jesus again.
Very much.
Very Christmassy.
It is.
Or Doctor Who.
Or Doctor Who. And actually, speaking of all this stuff, right, because I'm so sickened because I have still not seen you live. I've still not seen the performance of the League of Gentlemen live. So do you remember the first time you did it? Because you've done it a lot over the years, of course.
Well, we started live as a live act, so that was our origin, and we initially tried to sort of crack the stand-up scene, as it were, because for live comedy that was all really that was available, and we discovered very quickly that didn't work. And so we decided we needed our own kind of enshrined evening to do what we wanted to do. That's how it started.
Yeah. And in fact, it's 24 years ago this Christmas that we did the first show. Do you remember, at the Cockpit Theatre? And then, as you say, then we tried. There were numerous things of going into other people's stand-up nights, and I can remember one where the mics failed, having to pass round a handhold.
Yeah, I can tell you, it was a pub called the Water Rat.
Yes.
Oh, really?
At King's Cross.
Yes.
And the guy who introduced us said, "This might be a bit intellectual, but..." And he introduced us, and we did. It started to go quite well, and then the mics sank.
That's right. They were on arms, and they were on arms.
They sank.
Oh,
and I remember
right.
Steve just kicking it with his shoe to try and lift it up, and when we went off to deathly silence, and the man said, "Told you they were intellectual."
This might be a bit intellectual.
And it was downhill from there.
Yeah, and here we are.
But these first kernels, I mean, me and my missus went back to it about 6 or 7 months ago, back onto the iPlayer, where fortunately most of the old episodes of League of Gentlemen still reside, and it's just so exciting to watch. I mean, do you agree that you kind of paved the way for things like Little Britain, amongst other things, didn't you? This idea that it's sketch, but it's also sitcom. It's all sort of melded together. It gives you a sort of freedom to go wherever you want to go with these characters, I suppose, doesn't it?
Well, in a very basic way, we just needed a vehicle to house our characters. That's how it started. So when we did the radio series out, which is what we did after the live show, it was like, well, the obvious thing to do is put them in a town. But it's nice and broad enough to mean you can do almost anything, and it does go, from extreme sort of kind of gothic horror comedy to slapstick, really, and everything in between. That's what we.
Yeah, it was in the air as well, because Twin Peaks was the thing that was on everybody's lips in the 90s. And I mean, it was early 90s Twin Peaks, wasn't it? The first series. But it would come up a lot when you were talking to other people. So, I think there were other people. Everyone was kind of thinking along those lines. We just happened to get over the finishing line first, didn't we? In terms of.
But I think for me, because we did these 3 specials last year, and that's when we also agreed that we'd do some live dates to coincide, because we always loved doing the touring and going back to how we started. But what was really heartening and quite humbling was the response was so warm. It was just lovely,
Delovely and delightful.
And equally during the tour earlier this year, it was fantastic response, and not just we didn't want to be like a sort of 90s tribute band, going back.
Do the hits, do the Paulie.
So we did do that. No, but it was really lovely, and I think people responded to that. It was a very well crafted show. I think it's the best of our live shows.
Yeah, it was. We were really pleased. It was a lovely show to do. It was a lovely show to put together. I really enjoyed the process of putting it together and the technique and all of that and building it. It was great. And I think the thing was, there was a lot. The only reason we did it was because we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we'd missed each other, and same with the specials last year. You know, everyone's busy with their own things, but we missed being in a room together, and that was the only reason we came back. It wasn't for any cynical reason.
And I hope you can tell that it's not just a money grab or anything. It was because we wanted to have fun, and we did have fun. It was hard work, but it was lovely. And certain parts of the country, it was like missionary work. People were profoundly grateful we'd come all that way, because all they seemed to get was like 60s sort of disco compilations and things, and no shows.
Yes. But when you first came about the League of Gentlemen in the sort of mid to late 90s, it was quite I would go as far as say it was a relatively hopeful time politically, and it seems a little bit like it might not be quite as hopeful at the moment. And it sort of awakes something in me. I was slumped on the couch yesterday watching the latest episode of Amsterdam to get me out of here. Which I'm completely obsessed with, because what the producers seem to have done this time is, rather than it be combative and rather than it be about starving people and humiliating people and setting them against each other, they've gone completely the opposite way, and it's just a group of wonderful, lovely people who get on fantastically. And then it just sort of struck me, is that a sort of deliberate thing?
Right.
Like a sort of contrast with the way things are in the outside world?
Well, isn't that a bit like what people used to say about going to see Busby Berkeley films in the Depression?
Yeah.
And there might be an element of that. And actually, when things are so venal that people really do want to, as my dad says, I want to be taken out of myself, Mark. They want to be entertained, but also they want to see something positive.
They want some hope.
Yeah.
They want some hope, and they want some fun.
I'm not sure we provide that.
You're against the grain.
It's strange optimism, isn't it? Because the thing is, people forgive our characters the most terrible things.
Yes.
You know, the thing that I just cannot get my head around is in the specials last year is you've seen Tubbs and Edward do the most hideous, wicked crime to blameless people, and then you're still rooting for them to get away with it.
It's so true. The policeman turns up.
They look like hedgehogs, though. Somewhere deep in the DNA of it is Beatrix Potter.
No, I haven't considered
charming English eccentric.
The looming with a huge coal shovel.
That's a very good point, though, I think.
I mean, just to talk about what do you enjoy performing the most when you do this? So this I can't wait to get hold of this DVD, because, as I say, so far. By the way, is the hope for me? Will I be able to watch you live at some later point, or is that literally
maybe when
it's the end of the world?
Odd. But it's the end of the world, so what's the point?
So really,
if you don't go home and watch that literally now, you'll never.
That's it. It's terrifying to think that, because some of your, we've Legs Akimbo, for instance, just one of the great, disgruntled triumvirate of failed actors. The aforementioned Tulip and Tubbs, Hilary Briss, the terrifying butcher. Is he really dealing in human meat? Have you been asked this a million times?
Yeah, we never really say.
No, it's worse than that.
It's worse than that.
Me and Mark, when we were writing Hilary Briss, we used to have a private code for what it was that he was selling, which is so awful I can't even utter it. Yeah. But so we would have something in our head to write to, but with the knowledge that it was worse than even.
But I always used to say the first thing was someone said, "What is it?" And I said, "It's red herrings." And that's good. Really, because in the end, it's worse. It's much worse than human flesh, but we can't say.
Are you trying to tell me that it's non-organic meat? Is that what it is? Because if it's not grass-fed, then that really is worse than human meat, as far as I'm concerned. What are your favourite things to perform when you do it?
Well, Mickey, I've always loved playing Mickey, and Les McQueen, I should think, too. And actually, this tour we had great fun with all of them, really. But we did a song for Les because we gave him a happy ending. Finally,
Les is the sort of failed musician, essentially, isn't he? The sort of failed pop star,
which has had a marvellous afterlife, isn't it? We did discover something really interesting, which is I think the best-selling T-shirt used to be Dole Scum, because all our fans are on the Dole, and this year it was Creme Brulee because they've all become Les McQueen. I think really embittered middle-aged men.
But it was lovely because finally, after 20 odd years, Les got to sing. And sing a whole song, and it
on stage in front of thousands of people.
And we had a terrific songwriter called Ian Masterson who did us a beautiful Badfinger number for Les to sing. And
I love doing it every night. It was really good fun, and it was nice to see him to see him off all right.
Oh, that appears on the DVD.
It does indeed.
Which is marvellous. I always identified the most with Mickey because in 1996 I did a job start in Wigan. For a week, which is by some distance the darkest week of my existence.
Until this week.
Until this week, the end of days. I mean, there's so much to go. I can't believe that I've actually missed seeing you in the flesh. But this is the next best thing: the DVD, 105 minutes of pure rock and roll hilarity. But you're also doing other stuff. There's a BBC Sounds playlist that we should mention quickly, apparently.
I did that last night.
I did it last night.
It's all 80s synth pop, and I have to say, I don't listen to music enough, like in the evenings, and the fact that I had to do that, and I ended up enjoying myself so much, and trying to find a balance between obscurities and
bangers.
Bangers, yeah.
What name in the obscurity that you put on?
Oh, Cabaret Voltaire.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Sheffield fabulousness, isn't it?
That has a fantastic video with a camera that goes upside down.
Very well. But so many of them are kind of, and when you put them end to end, you just go, God, this is fantastic stuff. Soundtrack of my youth. That.
The Human League of Gentlemen, I think
Very
somebody
good. Well,
coined.
when we were playing in Sheffield on the tour, there was I took a picture. Cherishable moment. There was a poster for the League of Gentlemen next to a poster for the Human League.
Oh,
Finally!
The circle is complete. And now we're ready for our fiery extinction event, Volcano. And also the Dead Room that we should quickly talk about as well, which sounds absolutely fantastic.
Well, it's a ghost story for Christmas, which I've written and directed, just on Christmas Eve on BBC 4. Starring Simon Callow, set in a radio studio and filmed on location at Maida Vale.
The legendary Maida Vale Studios before it's turned into flats.
And Simon is the host of a kind of Man in Black style horror show which has been running for years. And he discovers that certain elements of his murky past are coming back to get him. Merry Christmas.
I've seen it, it's terrific.
Oh, thanks. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today. The DVD is available in all good and disreputable shops. And thank you so much to you guys, Jeremy and Mark, for coming in today.